Right. Well, week 2 of judging people favorably. I'm sure everyone certainly last week went away as much nicer and more positive people. Right?
Of
Um,
course.
can you can you see this well, by the way, or is there something in the way?
That's fine.
Yeah, you can see the
Yeah.
whole screen.
Yep.
Okay, great, great. I just want to. Do I need to spotlight myself, or we're okay?
I think we're fine.
Okay, great. So basically, what we saw is there's this mitzvah in the Torah to judge people favorably. It means when you evaluate something, when you evaluate a situation, you're supposed to evaluate it for the good. We had to judge. We had to, I'd say, balance that with not being completely naive or ridiculous. And we gave various scenarios. And what I'd like to do is to return to some of those scenarios this week because we kind of rushed the halachic element last week. So I want to finish that. And then I'd like to do some of the reasons. Okay? So let's see actually if I've got my sheet. That's probably a little bit better. So I've got it here. No, don't have that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to get this. Fine. Okay, whatever. I need to get. I'll get the sheet up as well. So because there's a really, really powerful piece in that as well. Okay, that'll be my thing to do. Right. Now, does everyone remember last week we were talking about 3 different scenarios and 3 different levels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so let me find this. Sorry. Judging favorably. It's got to be this one. Thank you. Okay. So one sec, I've lost it. What can you see on the screen now? Can you still see the same? Can you see the
same
word?
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't see the Word doc, right?
No, we can see the book that you've had
The
up.
book. Okay, no,
Page
so
318, apparently, of 376. That's a book.
right, no, so what I want to do, I want to actually get out of that for a second. I want to share something else, sorry. What I want to share is a window, and I want to share this. This is better for the moment. Because remember, these are the situations
Okay. Oh, yeah.
with last week, right? Okay, amazing. So we looked at the source. Well, now let's look at the parameters of the Rambam. Okay, so the Rambam had said, remember, we've got our 3 different scenarios, our 3 different categories of people. If you remember, you've got your person who's top heavy righteous, you've got your person who's top heavy wicked, you've got your middle fellow, and then you've got someone you don't know. We'll deal with them soon. And then if you remember, you've also got scenarios. You've got your top heavy wicked, top heavy. You've got your top heavy. It looks bad. The scenario. Right, you've got your top heavy, it looks good, the scenario, and you've got your middle, right? And we said effectively the mitzvah of judging someone favorably is that if it's someone righteous, then you judge them favorably more or less throughout until proven otherwise. In other words, in every situation. If it's someone wicked, you don't really have a mitzvah to judge them favorably. And if it's someone in the middle, that's where the mitzvah comes, I would say, in earnest. In other words, you've got a mitzvah to judge them favorably when they're doing something for when it looks good, obviously, and even when it's 50-50, you have a mitzvah to judge them favorably. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at that in scenario form, right? So you lost your watch and your friend suddenly starts wearing a remarkably, similar watch to you. Do you suspect them?
We said
What
no.
do we, but
No,
do you,
know whether
because
he's
it's
top heavy righteous, don't we?
Yeah, he's your friend and you know he's a good person.
right, so okay, so this depends whether he's, presumably you only have righteous friends, right? So if he's top heavy righteous, then great. No, you shouldn't suspect him, right? If he is a middle of the road kind of guy, it depends how the situation looks. If the situation looks that it's mostly for the bad, then you don't have an obligation to judge him favorably. You can, and that would be beyond the letter of the law. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's no obligation. Okay? With these kind of things, you are allowed to ask to verify. Again, I'm not sure. I mean, if he has stolen it, then I'm not sure asking is going to help. But asking, or for example, going to Beis Din to claim something, if you have a case, that doesn't contradict judging them favorably. Right? So look at the next scenario, for example. Your boss who's living rather comfortably says they have no money to pay you for 3 months. Right? You are allowed to claim the money through Beis Din, meaning they owe you money. Right? Mm-hmm. When they're going to pay and how they're going to pay, I don't know. Right? But let's say it's a boss who's living rather comfortably. They just bought a new car, new house, whatever, and they say they can't pay you. are you supposed to judge them favourably?
Doesn't look like it.
Would the
No.
So I think
well, I
the
suppose that,
situation.
I suppose there you're creating a situation where the situation looks a bit bad,
Yeah, I would say that.
but
Good.
you need to know whether the boss is still righteous or middle of the road or evil.
Right, exactly, 100%. It would all depend on that. All depend on that, as with the second one, right? As with, sorry, the next case, I mean, your colleague. Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. The friend getting off the practice coursework, I don't think we did. Although that happened to me. I mean, I wasn't the student, there was someone in my class. I don't know if you can see the case, but it's someone who got off their practice coursework assignment because they had lent, let's say, the teacher their Spurs season ticket for a match which was happening on Shabbos that the student couldn't go to.
Not sure that's a good scenario or a bad scenario.
Say again,
you
Jeremy?
assume they're evil if they're Spurs, no?
Someone had to say it.
Very good.
Naive.
Very good. Yes. So again, you're using the same rubric, right? I assume this looks pretty. There's worse things. I don't know what the technical prohibition of getting off your maths coursework
Number
is.
4, are you judging the friend? Are you judging the teacher? Because if your friend's done a good job of persuading someone else to let them off work, that's one.
Yeah.
The teacher's let them off the work. That's a different thing. So
Yeah,
someone puts getting a favour from somebody is one thing. That doesn't necessarily make them evil, but the person who gives them something effectively in return when they shouldn't have done, that's the person who's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. You're right. You're right. It's probably the teacher's fault, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the teacher was a bit wicked anyway, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. Is it like a flowchart? Are you you sort of judging the person the 3 ways and then the scenario, or you sort of do them in parallel?
No, you can do them in parallel, meaning there's no order per se. They just have to dovetail. Again, part of the mitzvah is you're not being naive. You're just looking at the situation for what it is. Okay. Packet of crisps. Excuse me. Airport story. You remember the story? The hand in the packet of crisps. So it's interesting, that one. I think Gideon, you pointed out last week, because you don't know who the fella is or the girl is, right? You have no technical mitzvah to judge them favorably. You are allowed to, and it's beyond the letter of the law to, but you don't have to. There's no obligation. Right? Because you just don't know them. Number 6, you notice your toothpaste. I think we liked this one last time. The toothpaste or shampoo has gone down recently. Do you suspect your roommate, or do you blame it on global warming?
What shampoo?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it's funny. I was in a certain shul and I looked around the room. Everyone was pretty old. I think between all the men, you could kind of put together one head of hair.
Oh, I love it.
Together, yes. Anyway, okay.
Thank you so much for the pretty old comment. It was really well taken at this
No.
time.
I didn't mean. I wasn't talking about you in that regard. I was just explaining the context of the shul.
Yes. Gideon's a bit younger than you, and obviously has the same kind of.
We move swiftly on.
Okay, I think that's best.
I'm stuck on number 5. I appreciate the naivety point, but is that not a classic case? Like, if you don't know the person, isn't that a classic case of where you should judge favorably?
So the problem is, when you don't know them, you've got nothing to categorize them. They can't fit in the boxes. So whilst it's commended, there can't be a technical obligation because you've got no past history.
But I kind of agree with Jeremy a little bit that just because you've got no past history, doesn't that mean you default to them being middle of the road, and therefore it puts you in you should be judging favorably.
But why should they be in the middle of the road? Maybe they're really wicked. Maybe they're really righteous.
But you don't know either way. So
that's true. So I can't process I just can't process them.
So you're saying that Jeremy and I kind of maybe had the wrong end of the stick. This only comes into play when you know they're either top heavy righteous, bottom heavy wicked, or middle of the road. And if you
100%.
don't know it, you can't.
That's it.
You,
Yeah.
it's not in the mitzvah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, again, it is beyond the letter of the law, and it's a good thing. It's not. It's not a bad
But
thing.
why? Maybe it's a bad thing then, because if you've just said the person you don't know could be evil, and now you're judging them. That's a bad thing.
That's true, but then your point, I think, comes into the fore, which is you don't know they're definitely not evil. I mean, sorry, you don't know they're definitely evil, and therefore it makes sense, although you can't say there's a technical obligation.
Okay.
Nice, actually, you're right. You brought it up very well there, actually. Okay, toothpaste or shampoo going down? Let's use toothpaste. It seems to be more inclusive. Toothpaste has gone down recently. Do you suspect your roommate?
No, she's got her own.
What can I say?
Okay, it's fine. So again, you'd use the same rubric. If they're wicked, then you'd suspect them. If they're, I don't think there's. Again, do you think this is massively incriminating or no? Sometimes someone accidentally, I don't know, steps on the toothpaste or pushes it, and so I'm not sure this is top-heavy evil. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the sort of thing that happens in student accommodation.
Absolutely. Yeah, they probably.
I think it becomes evil when you only have one more brush left, and then it's gone. Only enough toothpaste for that last brush, and it's gone before you have time to get a new one.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Joel
somebody
Brand.
says to you, "I hope you don't mind, Roy. Borrowed your toothpaste a month ago."
Okay, the Joel Brand story. Remember this one?
No.
So Joel Brand with Eichmann in Hungary.
Yeah.
Remember where? Yeah. So there's no mitzvah, of course, no mitzvah to judge them favorably because they're certainly wicked, and therefore that was that. Again, I can't comment on the historicity of it, but nevertheless, there's no reason to judge them favorably. Okay, next. Reasons.
Even though in theory the scenario is kind of a favorable scenario because they're saying if you do this, well, we won't. I can't remember exactly the situation.
Yeah, we'll save all the Jews or whatever. Yeah, yeah. When it comes to someone wicked, and certainly someone of Eichmann's wicked caliber, there's no mitzvah to judge them favorably at all. In fact, I would suspect them, to be honest.
So it's all sort of balance of probabilities and how evil they are.
Yeah. I guess so. There is a grey area I'm unclear on. Don't know if I declared this last week, which is in a case where someone is wicked in some areas but righteous in another, and the area that is under question is one that they're righteous. So, for example, you see them running out of somewhere you see them taking a coin out of the stucco box, right? And you know this is someone who, even though in other areas of their life they're particularly horrible, but they are meticulously good in giving stucco. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I'm not sure. Because if you're saying that it's all about knowing the person, then actually that sounds like it would relate to because it would relate to the area that you know them in. If you know they're meticulous in tzedakah, then that's the area you'd have to say, well, because if you don't know them, then this whole thing.
Well, but I do know them. I know their totality. I know they're great in giving tzedakah. I also know they're horrible in other areas. I just don't. I don't know whether that means that they become on average middle, or that means that you take each scenario according to their they righteous in that area. Yeah,
I think the other thing we talked about maybe was about the context. So if you see somebody do something and you haven't seen what's come before, so have they taken £5 out the tzedakah box because they put 20 in? Have they taken £5 out to give to somebody over there who needs it more than they do, or for something in particular? So there's something about whether you've got the whole story, the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about judging too quickly is you might not have all the information.
100%. Although in some cases you can't.
No,
you can't have the information. Like I said, I'd love it. It's just a bit of a waste of everyone's time. This slideshow I made about almost like a what happens next or judging people favorably. It's fantastic. Anyway, okay. So the reasons behind the mitzvah. So it's an interesting one, this. I would say there are two very different reasons given for the mitzvah of judging people favorably. Now, here we're trying to address a question we asked last week, which is, why does God care? A mitzvah means something divine. In others, there's something spiritual about this. Well, what's spiritual about judging people favorably? Like, who cares? It's not about taking revenge. That's a separate prohibition. It's not about doing something horrible to them. That's a separate prohibition. Why is it a mitzvah to judge people favorably? So the Sefer HaChinuch gets the ball rolling, and Sefer HaChinuch writes, you see the translation in English, it's a means of creating peace and harmony between people. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Creating peace and harmony between people. It's a societal measure. You can't live in a society in which people are constantly suspecting each other, and therefore this keeps kind of the what's called the social undercurrent running along nicely. Okay. Next, good. Okay, then you've got this one, the SMAC. The SMAC stands for Sefer Mitzvahs Katanos. He says an amazing thing. He says like this: when you judge someone else favorably, what you're doing is you're actually tricking your mind to think in a certain way, because Yachshav, you'll think Ein Choterak Ani. They're not the sinner. I'm the sinner. The Yashav Labara, and you'll do tshuva peniachria kalam lechova, because you will. Sorry, one second. You'll do tshuva, avoiding basically tipping the balance of the world to the negative. So forget the balance of the world for a second. The point is, you're basically tricking your mind. You're saying that person I'm judging favorably. And that turns the mirror around to say, oh my goodness, if that person is doing good, right, that means they aren't the issue. They haven't done something wrong. Maybe I have. It's like a very interesting thing. So I wanna deepen this a little bit. Has anyone ever heard of attribution or attribution bias? You heard about that before?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No? So I'm going to read something to you over here. This is in the days that I was studying my degree. We had a unit about social psychology, which is actually much more exciting than law, to be honest. There was a fascinating thing called attribution. I remember it ever since. So he says like this: think about the last time you received a good grade on a psychology exam. Chances are you attributed your success to internal factors. I did well because I am smart, or I did well because I studied and was well prepared. There are two common explanations you might use to justify your performance. What happens when you receive a poor grade, though? Their social psychologists have found that in this situation, you're more likely to attribute your failure to external forces. Yeah? Teenagers are great at this. I failed because the teacher included the trick questions, or the classroom was too hot. Yeah? In other words, when you do well or your team wins, that's because they're good and I'm good. If your team loses or you fail, you're blaming it on external circumstances. Oh, the referee, or they got lucky, or that kind of stuff, right? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then they find, they've taken that a bit further, and they say, actually, when it comes to other people, we tend to flip that mirror around. So when it comes to you, your successes are you and your failures are external. But when it comes to others, their failures, you view their failures as them, and their successes as fluke, external, right? So I've got it over here. It's called fundamental attribution error. So for example, if I say, why did you do well on the test? Well, that's because I'm clever. Why did you do badly on the test? That's because of the teacher. Right? Why did so-and-so do better than you at the test? That's because they got lucky. Why did so-and-so do worse than you in the test? That's because they're not as clever as me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating thing. Again, teenagers have this in abundance. So I actually think that part of this mitzvah is redressing that. In other words, what's happening is judging people favorably says, look, I'm going to judge. You have a mitzvah to judge people favorably, right? That means you have to think that they're not the one who's sinning. Maybe I am. What you're doing is you're turning around the mirror in the attribution bias. As you've got a natural propensity to favor yourself, right? And this mitzvah comes along and says, well, hold on a second, right? Let's just careful here. Let's not be biased in how you view yourself versus others. Let's do it the other way around for a little bit. and say, look, maybe the other person's okay and I need to check myself. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So that's in terms of this mitzvah. Please God, next week, we're going to have a pre-Shavuot special.
Oh,
Hey.
cool.
Yeah, we're going to do a live cheesecake make. No, we're not. So please God, we're going to do a Shavuot special, all about Shavuot, please God. And then the following week, TBC. I am in Israel, landing back here on Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So
Good
if I
luck.
make it.
We wait to
Yeah.
hear more.
Officially, I'm landing Luton at 4 o'clock. So if I make it, I make it. And if I don't, then I don't. But I'm going to let you know either way.
Okay. Cool.
Okay?
Okay. Lovely.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Good to
Take
see you
care.
all.
Thank
Have a week.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
I want to send it over the recording when it's done. Thank
I'll do
you.
my best.